Hello everyone. Buckle up for the new episode of Organic Chat, the one and only podcast made to motivate everyone with a nice topics every week, as seemingly simple as getting dishes done or as time consuming as trying to establish a routine. We all understand how many daily struggles in life can cause us to lose motivation. Sometimes having a lot to do can be overwhelming to the point of feeling hopeless, and we want to give up before we begin. Lack of motivation is often an issue with those dealing with both physical and mental health issues. We all understand that sometimes just getting out of bed is a task in itself. So once again, welcome you all to Organic Chat. This is PJ, your host. This podcast is all about not buying organic fruits or vegetables. It's all about bringing positive vibration within our family, community, and friends. I had this one question in my mind always: how people become successful, and what are the ingredients to become successful. I've been reading quite a lot of books, and a couple of books from Simon Sinek, and a few speeches given by Warren Buffett. They say something in common, which I would like to share that with you all in this podcast. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. I think one of the mistakes that people make is they think the purpose comes from their job. I've been whatever for so many years, and when I lose my job or I retire, I now don't have a sense of purpose because I have so closely associated with myself with the job that I did. I knew what my job was. I had a sense of purpose. And one wonders if those things are conflated, which is I had a sense of purpose for my job, and when I did not have the job, all of a sudden I woke up in the morning, did not know what to do, which is the purpose is not your MOS. Your purpose is not your saw gunner. Your purpose is not the job that you wake up to do every day. Your purpose is something bigger. There are some few rules that you can follow as you find your spark and bring your spark to your life. The first thing is to go after the things that you want. There's a short story that I would like to tell you. A friend of mine and I, we went for a run. The Roadrunners organization. So on the weekends, they host races. And it's very common at the end of the race, they have a sponsor who gives away something. Apples, bagels, or something. And on this particular day when we got the end of the run, there were some free bagels, and they had picnic tables set up, and on one side there were a group of volunteers. On the table there were boxes of bagels, and on the other side was a long line of runners waiting to get their free bagels. So I said to my friend, let's get a bagel. And he looked at me and said, the line is too long. And I said, free bagels? And he said, I don't want to wait in line. And I was like, it's free bagels, come on. And he says, no, it's too long. And that's where, and I realized there are two ways to see the world. Some people see the thing they want, and some people see the thing that prevents them from getting the thing they want. I could only see the bagels. He could only see the line. Because the rule is, you can go after whatever you want. You just cannot deny anyone else to go after whatever they want. You don't have to do it the way everybody has done it. You can do it your way. You can break the rules. You just can't get in the way of somebody else getting what they want. Rule number 2 is, in the 18th century, there was something that spread across Europe and eventually made its way to America, the Black Death of childbed. Basically what was happening is women were giving birth, and they would die within 48 hours after giving birth. This Black Death of childbirth was the ravage of Europe, and it's got worse and worse over the century. And these doctors of men of science wanted to study and try and find the reason for this Black Death of childbed, and so they got to work studying, and they would study the corpses of the women who had died, and in the morning they would conduct autopsies, and then in the afternoon they would go to deliver the babies and finish their rounds. And it wasn't until somewhere in the mid 1800s that Oliver Wendell Holmes realized that all of these doctors who were conducting autopsies in the morning weren't washing their hands before they delivered babies in the afternoon. And he pointed it out and said, guys, you're the problem. And they ignored him and called him crazy for 30 years. Until finally somebody realized that if they simply washed their hands, it would go away. And that's exactly what happened. When they started sterilizing their instruments, washing their hands, the Black Death of childbed disappeared. The lesson here is sometimes you're the problem. Take accountability for your actions. You can take all the credit in the world for the things that you do right, as long as you also take responsibility for the things you do wrong. It must be a balanced equation. You don't get one way or the other. You get to take the credit when you also take accountability. Lesson 3 is take care of each other. The United States Navy SEAL are perhaps the most elite warriors in the world. And one of the SEALs was asked who makes it through the selection process, who is able to become a SEAL. And his answer was, I can tell you the kind of person that becomes a SEAL. I can't tell you the kind of person that makes it through buts, but I can tell you the kind of people who don't become SEALs. He says the guys that show up with huge bulging muscles covered in tattoos, who want to prove the world that how tough they are, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who like to delegate their responsibilities and never do anything themselves, none of them make it through. He says some of the guys make it through are skinny, scrawny, and some of the guys make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He says, however, all the guys that make it through, when they find themselves physically spent, emotionally spent, when they have nothing left to give physically or emotionally, somehow, some way, they are able to find the energy to dig down deep inside themselves, to find the energy to help the guy next to them. They become SEALs, he said. You want to be an elite warrior? It's not about how tough you are. It's not about you smart you are. It's not about you how fast you are. If you want to be an elite warrior, you better get really, really good and helping the person to left of you and the helping person right of you. Because that's how people advance in the world. The world is too dangerous and the world is too difficult for you to think that you can do these things alone. If you find your spark, I command you. Now, who you gonna ask for help when you're going to accept help when it is offered? Learn that skill. Learn by practicing, helping each other. It'll be the single most valuable thing that ever you learn in entire life. To accept help when it is offered and to ask for when you can do it. The amazing thing is, when you learn to ask for help, you will discover that there are people all around you who always wanted to help you, just did not think you don't need it because you were pretending that you are under control. And the minute you say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm stuck, I'm scared, I don't think I can do this, you will find that lots of people who love you, who will rush in and take care of you. But that only happens, you have to take care of them first. Number 4th rule, Nelson Mandela is particularly a special case study in the leadership world because he is universally regarded as a great leader. You can take all the personalities, and depending on the nation you go to, we have different opinions of other personalities, but Nelson Mandela across the world is universally regarded as a great leader. And he was asked one day, how did you learn to be a great leader? And he responded that he would go with his father to tribal meetings, and he remembers 2 things when his father would meet with other elders. 1, they would always sit in a circle, and 2, his father was always the last to speak. You will be told the whole life that you need to learn to listen. I would say that you need to learn to be the last to speak. I see it in the boardrooms every day of the week. Even people who consider themselves good leaders, who may actually be decent leaders, will walk into the room and say, here is the problem, here is what I think, but I'm interested in your opinion, let's go around the room. It's too late. The skill is to hold your opinions to yourself until everyone has spoken. Does two things. One, it gives everybody else the feeling and that they haven't heard. It gives everyone else the ability to feel that they have contributed. And two, you get the benefit of hearing what everybody else has to think before you render your opinion. To keep your opinions to yourself. If you agree with somebody, don't nod yes. If you disagree with somebody, don't nod no. Simply sit there, take it all in, and the only thing you're allowed to do is ask questions so that you can understand what they mean and why they have the opinion what they have. And you must understand from where they are speaking, why they have the opinion they have, not just what they are saying. There is another element for success that we all do. We stop holding ourselves back. Let me tell you, the human brain cannot comprehend the negative. It is incapable. Yes, it is true. Let me give you an example. Don't think of an elephant. Now you might be thinking, what is this? I said, don't think of an elephant. You can't tell the human brain not to do something, right? And so what happens is we very often reinforce things when we put things in the negative, right? I can't get a pot. I can't get a pot, right? Or I can't do this versus I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this, right? And it's such a huge thing to convert things into the affirmative. You're supposed to do with the children as well. We are supposed to say, instead of saying to children, don't eat on the couch, supposed to say eat at the table, right? We tell people what we want them to do, not want them what we want to do. Pilots know this, right? It is well known in the pilot community then that when you tell a pilot don't hit the obstacle, they will hit the obstacle, because what they're doing is focusing on the obstacle. Skiers know this. If you have ever seen skiers going through trees, you know how they do that? It's very easy. It's actually surprisingly easy. If you go through trees on skis and you don't hit the tree, and you say you don't hit the tree, you keep watching, you are looking only at trees. All you're doing is seeing trees. You don't understand how anyone can ski with all these trees, right? as supposed to follow the path. The only thing you see is the path. Skiers know this. If you say don't hit the tree, you will hit the tree. You won't be able to find the path because all you see is millions of trees. If you say only follow the path, you actually don't see any trees. There's actually sparse trees. There's plenty of path. There's plenty of snow. It's same thing. If you focus on the obstacles, all you see is the obstacles. If you focus on the path through the trees, all you will see is the path through the trees. It's your choice how you choose to perceive your own career. It's literally perspective. It's the same thing with the entrepreneur to be successful. What it means to be an entrepreneur? The concept of entrepreneurship is also very interesting to me. I think there's a lot of people who like to say I'm an entrepreneur, but most of them don't really know what it means. An entrepreneur sees what they want and they set out to get it. And non-entrepreneur sees the things that prevents them from getting what they want. And that's the difference. At the end of the day, an entrepreneur is a problem solver. They are not turned off by long lines. They are not turned off by things that will get in the way. They are not turned off by things that will make things difficult. They see what they want and find a way to get it. They don't do in a way that hurts anybody. They don't do any way that denies anybody else their desire to get what they want. They don't judge others for doing it another way. They might make them uncomfortable, but they don't judge them. But they get what they want. But first, they have to know what they want. And this is how we can explain success. I was going through one of Simon Sinek's book, which is Start With Why. How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year, they are more innovative than all their competitions, and yet they are just the computer company. They are just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies and the same consultants and the same media. Then why is it they seem to have something different? Why is it Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered man flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they did not achieve powered man flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else play here. What Simon Sinek says, there's 3 golden circles: why, how, and what. This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define this. Every single person, every single organization on the planet, what they do 100%, they know that. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiated value proposition or proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make the profit. That's the result. It is always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? As a result, the way we think, we act, it's very obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. That is why, how, and what. Let me give an example. I use Apple because they are easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this: what, how, and why. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? That's how most of us communicate. That's how most of us marketing and sales are done. That's how we communicate interpersonally. What we do, we say how we are different. We expect some sort of behavior, purchase or something like that. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Why? Everything we do, we believe in challenge the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. They start from why. The way we challenge the status quo by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use and user-friendly. That is how. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? What? Totally different. You're ready to buy a computer from me. I just reversed the order of information. What it proves to us is the people don't buy what you do, why you do it. People buy why you do it. This explains every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. We are perfectly comfortable buying MP3 player from Apple or a phone from Apple or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. Nothing distinguishes them structurally from any other computer. Their competitors are equally qualified to make all these products. In fact, they tried. Few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They are eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They are been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought it. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great products and they can make perfectly well designed products too. And nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy one from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at the cross section of the human brain from top to down, the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle: why, how, and what. Our newest brain, neocortex, corresponds with what level? The neocortex is responsible for all our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains. Our limbic brains are responsible for all our feelings like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision making, and has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like what, how, and why, features and benefits and facts. It just drive the behavior. When we communicate from inside out, why, how, and what, we are directly talking to the brain that controls behavior, and we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things that we say and do. This is where the gut decisions come from. Sometimes you can give anybody all the facts and figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but just it doesn't feel right. Why would you use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain controls the decision making doesn't control languages. The best we can muster it, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you are leading with your heart or soul. I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's happening here in the limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision making and not the language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, and then how will ever get people to vote for you, to buy something from you, or more importantly be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? The goal is not just to sell who you need, or the goal is to sell the people who you believe what you do. The goal is not just to hire people who need the job, is to hire people who believe what you believe. You know, if you hire people just because they can do a job, they will work for your money. But if they believe what you believe, they will work for you with blood and sweat and tears. Nowhere else there is better example than with Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in early 20th century, the pursuit of powered manned flight was like everybody was trying it. We assume that to be the recipe for success. Why did your company fail? And people always give the permutations of the same three things: undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions, the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by War Department to figure out the flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at Smithsonian, and he was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere. They had no money. Not a single person on the Wright brothers team had a college education, and the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was, they believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it will change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in the pursuit of the result. He was in the pursuit of the riches. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And tell stories how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 seats apart because that's how many times they would crash before supper. And eventually on December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight and no one was there to even experience it. We found out it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, "That's an amazing discovery, guys, and I will improve upon your technology," but he didn't. He wasn't first, he didn't get rich, he did not get famous, so he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do. If you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Why is it important to attract those who believe that what you believe? It is because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, but buy why you do it. What you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, stood in the line for 6 hours, was because what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous success and a famous failure. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before, the recipe for success is the money and the right people and the right market conditions. You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded, market conditions were fantastic, but TiVo's commercial failure. They have never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was about $30 or $40, except of a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us what they had. They said, "We have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking." And the cynical majority said, "We don't believe you. We don't need it. We don't like it. You're scaring us." What if they said, "If you're the kind of a person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, do we have a product for you? It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc." People don't buy what you do, why you do it. They buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves the proof for what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He did not go telling people what needed to change in America. He went around people what he believed. I believe. He told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own and they told the people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel in bus, to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't the black versus white. 25% of audience was white. Dr. King believed that there were 2 types of laws in this world. Those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. and not until the laws that are made by men are consistent with laws made by the higher authority will we live in just the world. It just so happened that the civil war was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to the life. We follow not for him but for ourselves. But by the way he gives that I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They are not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. With whether they are individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who starts with why. As I initially told you, why, how and what. They have the ability to inspire, and it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them and to find others who inspire them. So for my success element, I would like to follow why, how and what. Until my next episode, what the world throws on us is not necessarily your choice, but what you make out of it is entirely your choice. This is PJ signing off, and will bring you more interesting topics during coming weeks. Thank you, take care and goodbye.